So she came to me a while back, but recently was out of state, and she saw a colorist, and she feels just really over highlighted. You can see she has like a lot of stripes and then uneven banding with her blonde, just really some white blondes and then some brassiness. Just not a great blend, not a really polished look, and just very flat almost. So our goal today is to blend her root out to give her something a little bit more seamless. We're also going to incorporate a low light and some toning. So if you guys want to see the back to see from where we're starting to where we're finishing, Cass is going to show you that really quick.
Here we go.
And our first step is going to be to basically root those highlights.
Beautiful.
So I'm just using a 7 in the Colorwear Cream, and I'm basically applying like a base right on her highlights. And we're going to do a little comb down to create a nice blend and just a really great base to work with. We're also going to fill her ends with the new Colorwear Gloss Toner with 9.3. That's just going to help with all of those really light areas and unevenness in her ends, and also allow me to have basically a little bit of a filler before I start those lowlights.
I love it. We have people tuning in from all over. We have London, we have Croatia, we have California, we have Toronto. We have a bunch of people saying congratulations too. So getting all kinds of love in the chat. And you guys make sure, if you have any questions for Milena, please feel free to ask. I am more than happy to read all of your questions aloud. We love engaging with you guys while you're hanging out with us. So feel free to ask. Milena, really quick, as you're basing, I have two initial questions for you. One, let's talk about your formula. And then the second question is going to be, how do you determine how far down the initial base application is applied?
Great, so my formula is just a 7. And the reason why I'm choosing that is because it's a little lighter than her natural, but still pretty close. She had mentioned that her natural just feels a little too dark for her. It's also going to allow us to use this color because the Colorwear you can drop 3 levels without filling. So it's going to really cover those stripy highlights and just blend them out really nicely. It's also not too dark, so it won't be too contrasty.
I love that. And you guys, I see you already asking if the formulas will be put in the comments. Absolutely. I will circle back after the live and make sure they're all there. But just to recap, Milena said our 7 natural in Colorwear Cream mixed 1 to 2 with our 5 volume Oxido. And no worries, I will definitely put that in the comments.
Yeah, and then you can, the fun thing about doing this is you can get a little creative. So use what you visually want to bring that comb down to where you want it. So for me, I don't want to bring it down too far because I still want some nice dimension. So I still want some of my light to come up a little bit. And then when I bring that low light down, you can really customize it to how low and how high you want it to be based on what your client wants and also based on what you're seeing in their hair.
Great, so kind of just to like the initial demarcation line, and now see, this is where the magic happens, right?
Yeah, so this is when I'm gonna start combing down, and I'm focusing a little bit higher around her face and then dropping a little bit lower towards the back. Doing a comb down is nice because where you apply the color is where it's going to be solid, and then once you start combing down, it's going to diffuse, so you don't have any hard line here. It's just gonna bring it down really nicely and softly. So I'm not gonna have any solid, like opaque blend here. It's just gonna be a really soft, seamless blend through that comb down area.
I love it. One of the questions I saw come in from Penna, and Penna, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. You can yell at me in the comments if I did. She's wondering if you would ever add any ash into your base, or if the 7 natural is kind of your go-to.
I will definitely add ash into my base sometimes. It just depends on what you're seeing at that root. Like if she had a lot of brassiness and, you know, orange or warm tones at the root, absolutely adding an ash in is useful. I didn't see that, and I don't really have that here today, so I don't feel like it's necessary. I also don't want her highlights to go green or, you know, too blue or just dull. Also, a little bit of natural and a little bit of warmth in Lowlights is nice because it does also add as a filler. You know, if something's too ashy, for me, it seems like it tends to lighten faster with shampoos and washes and things like that.
Awesome.
I'm also going to add a little bit of water. It's really hard to, in my opinion, to comb down and get a really seamless blend without any lines. On dry hair especially, so adding a little bit of water just kind of helps keep it really seamless and blended and make sure that there's no harsh lines in the hair.
Love it. And can you talk a little bit about the comb you're using? Like, is there anything specific as far as tools go that you would recommend to really do this well?
I'm using a wide tooth comb. I just feel like it creates a better blend on dry hair. I'll use a finer tooth comb on wet hair, like if I'm rooting freshly done highlights at the shampoo bowl. I feel like those just work better with dry versus wet hair.
Looking so good already. We have Janetta on. She's
Hi,
saying
Janetta.
hi.
And then after I'm done doing this entire comb down, on her ends here, I'm just gonna do that 9-3 and the Colorwear gloss, just to make sure that all of her ends are filled and ready to go for my low light and even in tone.
I love adding water. This is actually one of my favorite things to do. With any like freehand balayage technique, I speak to it as watercolor balayage sometimes, but it is like one of the best ways to truly create that blend. I think it's such a brilliant tip to ensure you're getting really soft lines.
Yeah, definitely has happened before where I didn't use water and I regretted it.
Been there, we've all been there.
So this is the Colorwear gloss toner in 9-3. This is also gonna help blend out any harsh lines with that root.
Guys, the Colorwear Gloss Toner, hopefully you've been loving it. Would love to know in the comments if you've tried this new liquid demi that we have launched. And actually, Milena is one of the first that I've seen filling with it, so I'm super excited to kind of talk to you a little bit more about that. So what makes you choose filling with the, and you said it's the 0.93, right?
Yes.
So what makes you choose to fill with the gloss over like a cream demi, let's say?
I just feel like it's a little bit easier to saturate, like especially if you're in a little bit of a hurry. It's nice and easy to saturate. It's also not gonna over dull her hair out. So, you know, she still wants to be a little bit of a blonde in through there. So I don't wanna, you know, overtone and overfill her ends. Just keeps it a little bit softer for me. And again, just like the way it spreads and the way that it, the timing of it and everything, it's just way easier to use this.
Totally. You can already actually see the depth that you've created a little bit farther down towards the back and the brightness towards the front.
Yeah.
Like that pattern
Yes.
is really already starting to show through, and it looks so beautiful. That's great. And if you guys can see the Colorwear Gloss Toner, a couple other really great things about this liquid demi is it's totally translucent during processing. So I know for me, when it comes to filling, this can be kind of scary when you're filling with a warm tone, especially on a really light blonde. So the fact that you can easily see through it, you know exactly what that hair is going to look like, makes that process so much easier.
Yeah, so that's our finished side. I'm going to let that process for 20 minutes, and while I process that, our other side here is already rooted and filled, and dried, so it's ready for my low light process.
Amazing.
So I'm going to switch to her other side, and we are going to low light her.
Yay! So you guys, just to recap, what you just saw Milena do on this side, our model already has pre-done on this side for you. So you're gonna be able to actually see, I have a ring light over here just in case if we need the extra light support. You're gonna be able to see exactly what that's creating. We do have a couple questions. Pina, and I did pronounce her name wrong, it's Pina, and Pina, thank you for correcting me. Well, she said the water also slows the processing down, which is helpful. Oh, wait, before we get into this, look at how beautiful that looks.
Yeah, even like if you don't want a low light, if you just want to, you know, correct like some banding and kind of give a more even blonde feel on the ends, just doing that step alone is a nice little quick step that you can do to just kind of hold the client over until they're ready to do maybe low lights or, you know, to re-highlight with the proper technique.
Heck yeah, and you guys, that there's a little bend in the hair. That's just from the clip.
Yeah,
just
sorry.
so you know. No, that's not you. I just want to make sure they can see that amazing blend because it really is freaking awesome. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Sorry, so the water, I want to go back to that question.
Yeah. She actually just commented, she said, I find that it slows the processing time down.
I think for this process that we're doing for like rooting and filling, going a little slower and a little lighter is not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, I mean, water, does dilute color a little bit, but I know color wear can be done on wet and dry hair.
Yeah. Let me check on a couple other comments and questions. Gabrielle said, haven't tried the color yet. Are there good ashes like blue and violet undertones? If so, what's the number system, or can you add it like in other lines? So maybe start with just cool tones.
I love the 10-2-1 and then the 10-1-7 and the 8-1-7 for blondes, and for just kind of like toning out, brunettes that are a little bit brassy. That 8-1-7 is really nice because it doesn't overtone them. It just adds like a little bit of an ashier like shine and finish to it, which I really love.
And we'll come back, Gabriella, and talk a little bit more about the number system in a second, but I definitely want to jump into your low lighting technique, Milena. So can you talk a little bit about like how you're picking up your sections, visually how you're painting?
Yeah, so this is another part where you can get really creative. In the back, I definitely do a heavier low light, and then in the front, I leave a little bit more blonde, just to have, a little bit more of a face frame. But you can get creative. So, with the back, I pulled some through all the way on the ends. With the front, I'm going to leave more of her ends solid blonde, so then she feels a little bit lighter around her face. But you can really get creative and kind of take a look at your client's hair and see, where do I need more depth? Where do I want it to be a little bit lighter? You can add a face frame foil with some lightener if you need to. All of that can be incorporated. It's just really fun to get a little bit more creative with the low light technique, which I really love. So you can see I'm kind of keeping them off of her hairline here and focusing more in this temple back area, towards the back of her head. And I'm still keeping that same technique where I'm leaving the blonde a little bit higher towards this the front of her face and bring it a little bit lower here, so you can see with this next foil to pay attention to that. And then, like I said, in some areas, if you want to pull the low light all the way through on the ends, if they don't want to be so solid blonde on the ends, then you can totally do that. With our client Liz here today, I know that she's used to being a little bit blonder. She just really didn't like that technique in her hair. So I am leaving her ends a little bit more solid blonde. It'll just give her a really nice pop and just make her feel a little bit closer to a blonde than a brunette.
I love it. So when it comes to the combination of the base and fill that you just showed and this low lighting technique, I feel like this is more you just really building in that precision with your low light, like being a little bit more intentional and following the same pattern. This is a really good section. You can see it really clearly. Just being more intentional and kind of pulling it through to fully saturated in specific areas, right? Yeah,
it just feels like some of her spacing is like really uneven. I feel like her highlights are chunky in some areas and then like really fine and blended in others. So this is, just being very precise, being very intentional with where I want her placement, and honestly just visual. Like I'm just visually seeing what needs it. This is also a great time where if you did create any harsh lines with the root comb down, you can pick up those pieces and low light that imperfection out of it. So you can just continue to just make sure that your blend is where it needs to be throughout each step.
And you just did something really awesome that I want to point out and just kind of ask about. So with the low light, I noticed there was heavier saturation towards the ends, and you kind of combed through it to blend it.
Oh, with my comb at the bottom?
Yes,
Show that again.
Yeah, show that again, because I feel like when we speak to seamless lowlights, there's a lot of like really easy mistakes to make, right? And I feel like that was just something subconsciously you did to avoid a mistake, but I know that that's going to be something super helpful.
Yeah, so, we're all humans, so like none of us are perfect, and it's really hard to make seamless perfect hair, millions of strands or thousands of strands of hair. So I'll show you it with this lower piece here. I'll try to make it heavy and then I'll blend it out. So, if you're saturating and you get towards the end here and you see like this solidness and you want to blend that out, you can just take the end of your comb and just kind of give a little flick, and it'll just soften any harsh lines that you have.
Brilliant.
And you can do that in any piece of the hair. I do that a lot with bleach as well.
Brilliant. It was totally something you did, mindlessly did, but I think that's such a great tip.
Yeah.
Such a great, helpful tip.
That's good.
Awesome. Let's see. So let's also talk your formula for the low light. I don't remember if I asked you what your formula is.
Oh, my low light formula. I don't think we talked about it. It's 7 and 7-3. So again, just to kind of mimic the base that we did, I definitely wanted to keep it at the same level. And I added a little 7-3 just for some areas that are still a little bit too blonde and might need a little bit of warmth, not to go too ashy.
Awesome. And you guys, again, just to recap, it's equal parts 7, which is our 7 natural, and Alpha Parfumano's Colorwear Cream Demi, mixed with 7-3. And 3 in Alpha Parfumano's numerical system is gold. So she's added just a little bit more warmth to it, mixed 1 to 2 with 5 volume. Everyone loves the tip with the comb. They're super excited. Also, we've got a lot of great compliments on the technique.
Oh, good.
Pina said this technique is brilliant. I agree.
It's just a nice, you can use it on anyone. It's good too, because then you're not going so dark and then your client can't come back to re-highlight. She's going to be able to flip back and forth between highlights and adding more lowlights or whatever the case is.
Beautiful
because
blend.
of this. Yeah, so this I want to show too. Once I get to the top, I naturally just kind of takes a little bit of some smaller weaves as opposed to heavier ones. I feel like with those shorter layers, if you take some smaller weaves as opposed to big chunky ones, you don't see such a harsh line, I guess. And again, it just keeps the blend really seamless. So you can see they're a little bit smaller weaves and a little bit closer together than my previous ones. Just kind of blending up. Here I'm going to drop it a little lower. Just kind of thinking about how her hair is going to fall after it's dry.
And building in that contrast too,
Yeah,
right? With her
yes.
front blonde.
Yes, absolutely.
So good. So about how long do you typically let these lowlights process?
Just 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
And that's it.
Amazing. Let's talk through your end result toner, because I know in the back, and actually we may have your client just flip around so we can kind of take a look at the back. Oh, it looks so good. Oh my gosh. I'll show you guys, because I have the ring light still, so I'll show you with it and without it, because we still have some daylight, just so you can see it in different lighting. And I'll also make sure, you guys, to post the before pictures in the comments, and we'll take some afters as well so you can see them. But what I really want you to notice is how diffused and seamless this looks. It's gorgeous. Here, let me show you without the ring light too.
Yeah, I want to show them the inside too, so you guys can see the inside, what it's looking like. Just in
Beautiful.
comparison, just a lot less stripey. And then I just left the one side straight so you guys can see both blends.
Yeah, that's, tried and true test when You have wavy and straight next to one another. So your toner really quickly.
Yes.
Can you talk about your end result toner?
Yeah, so I just did the Colorwear Gloss 932 in clear. I didn't want to overtone. I really just wanted something for more shine, and then I feel like the 1032 is just going to give a little bit of some gold reflection for her hair, not doing anything too much. But you could go either way here. I feel like I could have maybe done something like 1021 in clear and made it a little bit cooler, but it just depends on what you want, what the client wants. I definitely wanted to keep her in that Bronde family, so I think that's why I chose to go with the 1032. And I just love adding clear to everything because it just makes everything super light, but also still gives a little bit of additive with whatever color you choose to incorporate.
It's beautiful. You guys, if you have any last questions for Milena, definitely ask them. We'll be wrapping up here shortly to finish up our client and get these after pictures taken for you. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question from Pina. How long would you say this low lighting work would stay in the hair? Yeah, durability. So what's your, and how do you communicate that to a client too? Because I think that's always kind of tricky.
Everybody's a little different. I definitely recommend, shampooing to a minimum and making sure that you're using something professional and sulfate free. But honestly, this low light with the Colorwear cream lasts really long for me. I will have a client maybe come back in 3 to 6 months and it will still be in there. Sometimes I have really porous clients and they have to maintain it a little bit more. But for me, I would say between 3 and 6 months, depending on how much and how often they shampoo. Her hair doesn't seem very porous at all, which is great. So I think that she'll have a lot more durability. And also to keep in mind, when somebody is over highlighted and you're doing a technique like this, what they really need is to let their hair grow. So they need their natural to grow in more, and then you can get away with doing less and less lowlights because all of that blonde that's in the hair will then slowly move to the mids and the ends of the hair, which is where we want it to live usually. So I feel it's a great temporary holdover until her hair grows in a little bit more, and then hopefully eventually we can just add highlights and we don't have to lowlight at all.